The number one thing on Superman's bucket list. More money, more blank. The most inappropriate song to be air drumming to. What's Kanye West's personal mission statement? Dennis the Menace grew up and got the new nickname Dennis the Blank. What would happen if you removed all of Johnny Depp's many scarves? What will be the hot new fashion trend in 2050? Alvin and the Chipmunks 12 blank. The worst thing to say during your Supreme Court Justice confirmation hearing. What Zayn from One Direction will be doing when he's 40. What a U.S. president could say during a State of the Union address to get everybody to clap. The most popular ride at a religious theme park. An odd sequel to James and the Giant Peach, James and the Giant Blank. You know you need to work out more when you notice blank. The worst curse every full moon you turn into blank. The worst thing to hear during a massage. After killing Hitler, the second thing you would do with a time machine. A weird thing for Peyton Manning to endorse. The first thing Pinocchio did after becoming a real boy. Oh sure, now that his wood is gone. The worst person to be on a plane with would constantly blank. What Abe Lincoln probably called having sex. A new children's classic, The Velveteen Blank. A very hipster form of birth control. What God said when he created the penis. A good taunt to yell at the zoo elephants. The kinkiest thing about 1800s pioneer sex. The worst thing to get stuck in your hair. The worst picture to see framed in your grandmother's house. Snow White's biggest complaint about living with the seven dwarfs. A rejected title for Hitler's book Mein Kampf. A bad name for a proctologist, Dr. Blank. The worst way to die, death by 1,000 blank. What you might hear Big Bird say on his deathbed. A weird surgery that starts with laser. Women never date a guy who blank. A fact you might find on a Snapple cap that couldn't possibly be true. The title of a Goosebumps book that was never published. A new slogan for the Greyhound Bus Company. Everybody poops too. Blank. What the S stands for in Ulysses S. Grant. What it means when the flag is at 3/4 staff. A good first question to ask someone who's interviewing to be an Uber driver. The last thing a center wants to hear the quarterback whisper. The title of an album recorded by a singing goat. The name a Starbucks barista would write on the cup for Mohandas Gandhi. A rejected Jelly Belly flavor. A bumper sticker a nudist would have. What the raccoons digging in your garbage say about you. What God probably smells like. The scariest thing you can think of is blank riding blank. A rejected name for nipples. What Santa's elves do in the off-season. Something to stuff a bra with if you're in a hurry. A very lonely Saturday night is just sitting on the couch with blank. Something creepy to hear a kid say. A campaign slogan guaranteed to get you elected president. A movie that needed more nudity. What Johnny Depp would probably bring to your party. Johnny Dip. Just dip your Johnny in the dip and... Oh, wait, you mean the dip is from Johnny? Oh, that's even worse. A terrible thing to tell your kid when the dog dies. How you know a coworker had sex on your desk. Blank. A new fragrance by Gerard Depardieu. Martha Stewart's biggest pet peeve. Some solid life advice. Never trust blank. A terrible name for a panini restaurant. A good sign that you accidentally married a duck. The name of a really crappy robot. Alfred may know Batman's secret identity, but the biggest secret he keeps is blank. A great pickup line to use in a retirement home. Queen Elizabeth's wrestling name. A good name for a mint for your butt. You get the weirdest image results when you search for blank. The title of Rob Schneider's memoir. The most embarrassing thing that could happen at prom. A promise you shouldn't make to a sick child. A really crappy young adult novel would feature a teenage girl falling in love with a blank. A strange thing for a ghost to whisper in your ear. A weird plan for saving the manatees. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Oh, and also blank. In the worst casting decision ever, the role of Frodo Baggins would go to blank. Something every American would support is a national blank pipeline. A secret Six Flags ride that only billionaires can go on. The weirdest menu item to choose for your last meal. The worst thing to blurt out when watching a movie sex scene with your parents. The most common item in the Lost and Found box in hell. What the world's most obnoxiously trendy brunch restaurant would be called. How to make golf golf more exciting. A text message that Jesus sends at 3 a.m. The worst vehicle to drag race in. What a bad undercover cop posing as a teen says. The #1 reported crime in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. The worst thing to admit during a sleepover. The name of a figure skating move yet to be successfully pulled off. A great name for a meteorologist. The best line to say while crying a single tear. The title of a drama clearly gunning to win an Oscar. An inappropriate time to wear a tuxedo. The name of a clothing store for jockeys. It's a bird. It's a plane. Oh, wait. No, never mind. It's just blank. A good line for breaking the tension at a fish funeral. What Sonic the Hedgehog would trade all of his gold rings for. The weirdest ingredient to put in trail mix. New rule, you should automatically be arrested if you blank. What New York City did with King Kong's body. What a crappy doctor would say every time a patient gets naked. The name of a singles bar for pirates. Booty bar? Looks like you just parroted the most common answer to this prompt. Get it? Parroted? Oops. I just parroted the most common response to your response. What a moron would say at a museum. The worst catchphrase for a Star Trek captain. A weird way to keep your ears warm. In 25 years, people of the future will look back and think we're morons for not realizing that blank. Every airline flight should come with a free blank. You should always blank before you get married. The name of a cereal for serial killers. What sperm are thinking as they race towards the egg? The most awesome thing to say after getting fired from a sperm bank. The worst bachelor party would involve blank. The worst thing to hear from your spouse, I'm leaving you for blank. What most people don't know about ostriches. The worst children's game, Hungry Hungry Blank. The worst title for a rap song. A weird Tom Hanks Meg Ryan movie, Sleepless in blank. The Eiffel Tower would be a lot cooler if it had blank. A weird thing for an astronaut to say on the moon. The title of a sex ed book from the 40s. The worst excuse for ditching your date. A great way to save electricity is to blank. The title of an unreleased Air Bud movie. A job that doesn't exist, but surely would have the highest death rate if it did. A good name for a fictional town in Australia. What the inflatable arm-flailing tube man did before working at car dealerships. The official name for the Pope's underwear. Just don't try to stamp those briefs with a papal seal. You might hurt yourself. Why did Jack and Jill go up to Canada? What you've been searching for wasn't inside you this whole time. It was in blank. The #1 cause of death for Care Bears. When the stork isn't delivering babies, he blank. The worst thing to have written on the butt area of your shorts. If you really want to waste your one phone call in prison, call blank. What the 13th month would be called. Conspiracy alert. Aliens are real and they're blank. A great use for a dirty diaper. What Channing Tatum calls his butt, probably. The title of a nude portrait of your dad. The worst thing to wake up and find sitting on your chest. The worst question to be asked at a lifeguard job interview. Breaking news, scientists have just discovered nature's fiercest creature, the blank shark. A surprise benefit of all the wind in Chicago. Something found in the seat cracks of nearly every cab. What a turtle looks for in a mate. Be prepared. Always keep a blank in your pocket. Some shower heads have settings like massage and pulse, but never ever set your shower head to blank. What you shouldn't say as you're getting baptized. A new exciting rule for Monopoly. Pass go and collect blank. What a really bad smuggler would say to a border guard. A good punishment for an unruly child is to simply look him in the eye and tell him blank. Don't throw out those used chopsticks. They could be used to blank. The worst job to have at the White House. How Lady Gaga sleeps every night. The most important part of Canadian sex. The weirdest event for which to camp out the night before. How do you seduce a bear? A careful seduction. Reminds me of the books my mom used to keep by the bathtub. The worst thing to paint on a new baby's nursery wall. A creative use for a corn cob. The title of an erotic movie for elephants. The one change churches could make that would probably get more people to attend. How does Adele come up with those great songs? You know you got scammed when the puppy you bought at the pet store turns out to be blank. The name of a lingerie store for bears. What the fine print on every love coupon says. A terrible thing to carve into a tree. A sex position for ghosts. A strange strange question to find on an IQ test. Worse than waking up next to a horse head would be opening your eyes to a blank. Terrible advice from a driver's ed instructor. The new menu item at Taco Bell in 2040 will be chicken blank. Bagels should change their name to blank. The most inappropriate place to have a mechanical bull. A job that doesn't exist now, but that somebody probably had in olden times. Something in 98% of all cargo pants pockets. The worst thing to see while wearing X-ray glasses. The hardest question a bridge troll could ask you. This just in a stunning move, Bill Nye the Science Guy has given up his signature bow tie and instead will now wear blank. Who's the boss? You know, there are no right or wrong answers in Quiplash, except for this one. Mona was the boss. What's that smell? The anti-drug Just Say No campaign should be updated to the blank campaign. Something you don't usually see on engaged couples' registry lists. You know you found your soulmate when you look them in the eye and they say blank. What unicorn flatulence smells like. The real reason the giant at the top of the beanstalk was trying to kill Jack. Something you might find in George W. Bush's living room. The next way airlines will probably try to save money. Blank. What a caveman has nightmares about. Something you don't want to find in your grandpa's tool shed. The way to celebrate being honored as Zoo Employee of the Month. A disturbing thing to see your kid making out of clay. The most common injury of the super wealthy. The name of a male strip show with really out-of-shape guys. A weird dad keeps all of his children's blank as memories. A bad excuse for missing your kid's graduation. The devil's biggest complaint about hell. What ruined your hot air balloon ride? An appropriate song to be playing at a sperm bank. A poor follow-up to the X-rated classic Debbie Does Dallas would be Debbie blank. The worst interrogation would have a good cop, a bad cop, and a blank cop. A strange thing to shout during a tickle fight. The last thing you want to hear from somebody sitting in front of you on a megabus. A super elite underground club at Yale that nobody knows about. The name of the upcoming TV show starring men with big arms and tiny legs. The weirdest talent a beauty pageant contestant could showcase. The one thing that never sells at costume shops is a mask of blank. Make up a name that probably no one in history has ever had. The last person you'd want to be on a lifeboat with. The worst thing to say in a marriage proposal. A troubling thing to notice on your shirt tag, 2% blank. The most pointless thing to strap a GoPro camera on. The worst thing an HR manager could wear. A clickbait headline about cows. The worst place to hide the counterintelligence documents. Don't talk to me before I've had my coffee, and don't touch me until I've had my blank. A line in the Canadian national anthem, probably. There will be blood too, blank. What you will bequeath to your enemy upon your death. The dumbest use of science would be to clone a blank. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles should update their catchphrase from cowabunga to blank. A sign your marriage may be falling apart. A great name for a real estate agent. What the California Raisins do for work now. A warning that should come with spray-on cheese. Something you should never do without gloves on. A new traffic law that really needs to happen. Something you should never say when pulled over by a small-town sheriff. Something David Schwimmer probably repeats to himself every day. A weird button in James Bond's car is simply labeled blank. A good use for 50 gallons of bacon grease. Why the fish in your aquarium hate you. A catchphrase you'd probably hear on a sitcom called The Poop Family. Why is life so hard? The worst TV program, blank dance party. The employees at IKEA hate it when you blank. A word that shouldn't come before jerky. An unusual store, blank are us. The hardest part about having 5 secret families. The hardest part about being a U.S. president is that every day you must decide blank. Remember, when buying a new home, always make sure the previous owner didn't blank. What the hare did with his life after losing to the tortoise. A terrible drill sergeant would be constantly yelling blank. Something you shouldn't say to a mafia godfather. The one thing toll booth operators say every day. The best part of being an 1800s fur trapper. An automobile feature only the French would have. A good way to get kicked out of a jazz band. A good name for a Coldplay cover band. What people in the early 1900s probably said when they got electricity for the first time. A sign that you're slowly morphing into former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. Oh, you don't have to be the 39th Commander-in-Chief to love peanuts. The filbert? Now that's a presidential nut. An easy way to start a fire is to rub blank together. A great way to cheat on a sex education test. An idea for a really weird business. Rent a blank. Proposed new Olive Garden slogan. When you're here, you're blank. Control-Shift-Alt-6 is the little-known keyboard shortcut to do this. The title of the worst book to read on a toilet. Something somebody named Dale would say. Classic Dale. Always politely introducing himself. What a jerk. The weirdest setting to find on a microwave would be a pre-programmed button for blank. The hardest job to do while on roller skates. The least impressive trophy, first place in blank. Write a really dramatic line for a doctor to say in a TV medical drama. A job you'd be surprised requires a urine test. Life hack, if you don't have a wine rack, simply use a blank. The only way to truly kill a bed bug is to blank. A sign you may be a terrible babysitter. Why are we put here on this earth? A good reason to give a restaurant a 0-star review. A sign you may be in a cult. The last thing you want to hear while in a tent. Title of an HGTV show for bees. Hive hunters is so fake. Most of those hives aren't even for sale. A dangerous thing for a drone to deliver to you. If the Pied Piper really wanted to impress us, he'd get blank to follow him. A terrible thing to say while testing out a mattress. A great line to use to insert yourself into any conversation. In the year 2085, blank will be the American currency. A rejected title in the Magic School Bus series. The Magic School Bus goes to blank. I'm telling Lily Tomlin you wrote this. The sound a black hole makes. The weirdest label you could have on a moving box. What are goats saying most of the time? What's the boogeyman's part-time job? The last thing you want to find in a vacuum bag. A terrible name for a street drug. Your immediate thought as you're attacked by an orangutan. How old-timey sailors pass the time on long voyages. To become a billionaire in mere days, simply blank. How the view will finally end. The one job robots will never take from humans. The downside of being named prom king. A good sign that Congress doesn't like you. Your secret recipe for applesauce is to simply blank. A really dumb name for a barber shop. The worst crime in Middle Earth. Why haven't we been back to the moon? A surprising find at Bill Clinton's garage sale. The wrong thing to say after farting in church. The worst spring break would feature the wet blank contest. It's hard to declare a winner in a wet blanket contest since the contestants always quit halfway through. Remember, when dining at a sushi restaurant, you should never ever blank. What lobsters think as they're being boiled. The only way out of Mississippi is to blank. Actually, if you die in Mississippi, you are both dead and in Mississippi. The term for a large group of bedbugs. The next big reality show, America's Got Blank. The first thing the ugly duckling did after turning into a beautiful swan. A fun activity that only requires 3 fingers. The worst part about sharing a sleeping bag with this player. A sign that your dog is an idiot. Santa's phasing out reindeer, and next year his sleigh will be pulled by blank. How does Swiss cheese get all those holes? What a rich jerk drinks champagne out of. What keeps Adam Sandler making movies? The most important part of a hillbilly wedding. Forget carpooling, they should build a special driving lane just for blank. How a drunk rabbit would embarrass himself. The worst song to be playing for your lap dance. The worst time to tell someone you want a divorce is in the middle of blank. Actually, nothing you say during sex will hold up in court. At least that's what the lawyer I'm sleeping with told me. The worst carnival attraction, the blank booth. How you can spot a counterfeit Rolex. Something you don't want to hear from the skydiving instructor strapped to your back. Why you're not allowed back at Jurassic Park. What a mopey mule would say. The brand name of a patriotic line of diapers. The one thing that depresses Popeye. The task that Satan's intern hates most. The next TV spinoff, Law & Order, Special Blank Unit. Weird advice from your grandfather. Don't take any wooden blank. The Wright brothers' first words after flying for the first time. The pep talk you'd get from a football coach who bet on the other team. If you want to survive prison, walk up to the scariest prisoner and blank. A good replacement for SeaWorld's whale shows would be blank. A complaint only a lumberjack would make. Besides counting rings, the other way you can tell the age of a tree is to blank. A 3-word review of baths. A dramatic line that Gilbert Gottfried definitely couldn't pull off. Warning, the government allows school lunches to contain up to 4% blank. A terrible scent for a car freshener. The weirdest gift you could give somebody is a pillow with blank on it. A good name for a roller derby team composed of nuns. Holy rollers! God, yes! The last sign we'll get before the apocalypse. New high school superlative, most likely to blank. What they could call solitary confinement, so it doesn't sound so bad. What a caveman says right after sex. There should be greeting cards specifically for this situation. What the filling of a deviled egg should be called. A terrible trade you could make with the devil. You give him your soul for blank. A rejected first draft line from The Shining. Here's blank. The last thing you want to find in your cat's hairball. A terrible brand name for cat food. The name of an exhibit you'd be surprised to see at an art museum. A good name for a band whose lead singer is a goat. What's the real reason the Phantom of the Opera is so moody? An alternate name for meatloaf. The booth nobody visits at the job fair is for a business called blank. The nickname Van Gogh gave his remaining ear. Righty? Yeah, Van Gogh wasn't really known for being a very creative person, was he? Something that would be terrifying to notice in the background of a selfie. Something that even a raccoon wouldn't eat. Warning, never put blank into a crock pot. How you know your RV is haunted. Who is currently the 5,492nd ranked player in professional tennis? The name of a disease that makes you look like a minion. Miniongitis. Yes, sadly miniongitis is incurable. You should always seek out a second up minion. The worst topping to put on a cake. A terrible name for a hotel, the Blank Inn. The top pop song of 1906, probably. What you wish you could say to yourself as a high schooler. The worst song to lose your virginity to. First draft movie line, frankly, my dear, I blank. A road sign that would cause you to turn around, watch out for blank. A phrase nobody in the history of mankind has ever uttered. The name of a nursery rhyme that's guaranteed to give your kid nightmares. What should be dumped on the losing coach at the end of a football game? Hey, football's not a water sport. The weirdest thing to whisper to a ceramic doll. The worst thing to write in the tip section of a check. A weird thing to shout when you're midair during a cannonball. The title of a video game that would have been huge in the 1800s. Why are printer ink cartridges so expensive? A good name for a pet aardvark. Instead of, "It's alive," what Dr. Frankenstein yelled after making his 14th Frankenstein monster. How would you spend your first day as U.S. President? George Washington's biggest complaint about having wooden teeth. A sign they should put up on the Florida state line. A cocky thing to do on your first day working at Victoria's Secret. The Wicked Witch of the West's biggest annoyance with her flying monkeys. An awkward thing to say to the naked guy next to you on the bus. The last place you want to see Willem Dafoe's face. A bad thing to hear after yelling hello into a deep cave. The most awesome thing to say before you dramatically flip a scarf over your shoulder. The name of a home improvement show starring nudists. The hardest part about being Justin Bieber's bodyguard. A time you absolutely should not wear white. How your spouse knows you're having an affair with a clown. A rejected church hymn, swing low, sweet blank. A warning that should come with every IKEA futon. A really crappy nude calendar, the men of blank. Wait a minute. You wouldn't buy a sexy Jackbox calendar? I wish I would have known that before I shaved my bikini area. It took like hours. The way to really embarrass yourself on Jeopardy! Should you catch on fire, remember, stop, drop, roll, and then blank. Like sleeps with the fishes, an odd way for a gangster to say someone's dead. The only bad word that can follow bacon. Oh, please, don't even joke about a bacon shortage. I'm still reeling from the maple glaze price-fixing scandal of 2003. What trees think when we take their sap. Sometimes Deadpool wishes he didn't wear such a skin-tight latex suit and instead wore blank. The worst gig for any truck driver would be delivering blank. The worst thing to say during your Oscar Awards speech. A terrible place to dump grandma's ashes. The weirdest NASCAR sponsor you could see painted on a car. A good nickname for Wolf Blitzer. The worst place to fall asleep. What a good rival to Build-A-Bear would be called. A good use for an abandoned mall. But if the mall's abandoned, how are the zombies going to get their pink berry? If you really listen hard, you'll hear a seashell say this: the biggest secret a chimpanzee has told Jane Goodall. A nutritional fact you'd find on a can of whoop-ass. Something you should never think about while meditating. A name that would always make a teacher laugh during roll call. Never blank after applying lotion. A rule every gardener eventually learns: never blank the cabbage. A bad line to have on your business card. A rumor that other birds have about the ostrich. Why is that guy yelling in the painting The Scream? A sign your parents may have sheltered you as a kid. What cows are usually saying when they moo. A question the Riddler asks on a first date. The scariest challenge that was never done on Fear Factor. A bad substitute for dental floss. A secret image hidden on the $1 bill. If this player was a Mortal Kombat character, their special move would be this. The ultra-rich have a spoon specifically for when blank is served. A terrible name for a street. It would be very surprising if they made a movie all about the life of blank. A name for a lingerie store targeted to very conservative women. There's a secret monument in the Washington Mall called the Blank Monument. Somebody who would make a terrible soccer goalie. An unusual reason to duel somebody. Edward Scissorhands would have been a much different movie if it were called Edward Blank Hands. The hardest class you can take at clown college. A procedure that not even the slimiest plastic surgeon will do. A sign you got a bad nose job. You know, I had a cousin with no nose. And then you're supposed to say, how did he smell? And I would say, terrible. Okay, let's move on. The biggest problem with the last Star Wars movie. Don't worry, sport. Jar Jar went to live on a special farm where he can run and play with all the other world's worst ideas. A street sign you would expect to see in Ireland. The 3 ingredients in a drink called the Chicago. A bad lawyer's opening statement to the jury. Why are sloths so slow? In the future, America will change its name to blank. Elvis's last words, probably. Why Santa doesn't hire millennial elves. A question an insecure God would constantly ask. You know the old saying, beer before liquor. A good sign your mechanic is ripping you off is that he says you need a new blank. The worst thing to see out the window of your plane. The name of a restaurant that only serves grade D meat. A bad thing for a TV meteorologist to say during a tornado warning. A little known but fun moment at the Last Supper was when blank. A Yelp review a millennial would leave about World War II. Why you shouldn't party with Vikings. A shocking thing to see digging through your garbage at night. The perfect thing to say to get rid of door-to-door solicitors. A new name for bananas. What will eventually break up Alvin and the Chipmunks. The biggest mistake you can make at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Something you wouldn't expect to hear from a Subway sandwich artist. A great pickup line to use on the person cleaning up the spill you caused in the grocery store. A lame thing to say before your big drag race. What a weird sheep thinks when it's getting shorn. The technical medical term for swamp ass. Elections would be a whole lot better if instead of debates we made the candidates blank. Absolutely, wrestling would be awesome. Forget about taxes and world peace. I refuse to vote for anyone who can't get out of a figure 4 leg lock. What would you do for a Klondike bar? What's the worst way to spend Leap Day? Something a friendly heckler would yell at a comedy show. Everybody who buys a jet ski gets a personal card that says this. You might want to talk to your child if he names his teddy bear blank. An inappropriate thing to write on somebody's cast. The name of a nightclub for people in their 40s. Something that should never have chocolate filling. You know your house is too big when you have a room specifically for blank. A strange thing to yell when you find your first gray hair. A weird skill left-handers are better at. The worst office has a view of blank. The rejected name of Lake Titicaca. A horrifying story for kids. Well, your dad and I met when we were both blank. The one thing you wouldn't mind holding between your butt cheeks for an hour. Something an overexcited fan would yell at a tense dog show. How can you tell that your toe is infected? What 80s 80s TV alien Alf is probably up to right now. The worst part about being under Dracula's thrall is that he's always making you blank. Why's the red panda so red? Why Wolverine can't make a relationship work? How you know the pants you're wearing are 3 sizes too small? How Matthew McConaughey stays in such great shape, probably. A hit country song for people who care about the environment. The quickest way to rid yourself of a tapeworm. The one thing Spider-Man's spider sense never warns him about. A bad excuse when trying to return a sports bra. You can tell your parents are glad to have you out of the house when they turn your room into a blank. The brand name of a really rough toilet paper. When on the subway, it's polite to give up your seat to blank. The name of a bar with no bathrooms. The best way to drown out the sound of a coworker pooping in a nearby restroom. To be authentic, New York-style pizza has to have lots and lots of blank. A great way to make friends in a steam room is to remove your towel and blank. You can tell you're on a bad cruise when the captain announces, if you look off the starboard side, you will see blank. Indoor skydiving makes a lot more sense than indoor blank. A terrible name for a dictator. The strangest party favors at a bachelorette party would be penis-shaped blank. A penis-shaped penis? Would that be like, so it's still attached to some guy, or... You know what? Never mind. I didn't ask. I'm good. A frequently asked question on www.beats.com. I'm sorry, but if you don't even know what a beat is, you're not ready for the mind-blowing info on beats.com. A sign that you're really frugal. Instead of buying paper towels, you blank. A name for a dating site for people over 80. Wife Swap is a much better show than Blank Swap. The weirdest designated parking spot would be a parking spot specifically for blank. The worst thing a history teacher could say. A good use for an old CD tower. You know somebody knows nothing about wine when they say this after taking a sip. Something you don't want to see in a lost and found box. It would be awesome if you could grow blank in a garden, an item that never sells at a garage sale. A good name for a Christian water park. You'll realize you shouldn't have picked up that hitchhiker when he says blank. A rejected song from the musical Oklahoma. The most pointless volunteer work would be helping the blank. Okay, fine. Don't help the rich. But don't go crying to them when you need a name for your new museum wing. The title of the book that's never checked out at the library. A terrible name for a yacht, the SS blank. What's that blue liquid in Magic 8 Balls? Everybody looks cool on a motorcycle. Except for blank. A funny line to say right before you're burned at the stake. Never take a first date to a blank. A car that would never sell is the Honda blank. A really dumb roundtable discussion would be about this topic. Hands down, the worst roommate would be blank. What are mannequins always thinking? In the near future, scientists will discover that dinosaurs actually blank. Something very disturbing to pull out of your ear. A new baseball tradition you would like to see would be the 7th inning blank. The worst possible misspelling of Zach Galifianakis. Something you might overhear in a completely full clown car. The next big craze for yuppies, bottled blank. Bottled air? They tried to sell me that stuff when I went scuba diving. I didn't fall for it. An odd sequel to the children's book, The Giving Tree. Personally, I like a tree who takes what he wants. There's nothing more attractive than confidence. I'm sorry, what were we talking about? What happens if you eat too many hot dogs? Something you don't want to hear from the guy driving your romantic horse-drawn carriage. The name of a snobby hair salon for cats. Something enthusiastic you would yell at a Smash Mouth concert. A food truck you might see in Texas, blank on a stick. The best way to escape the inside of a whale. The worst thing to say as you enter a tough biker bar. A get-well card for someone injured by a robot. An interesting thing on RoboCop's job performance review. Needs to work on blank. The greatest part about having lots and lots of back hair. What the Statue of Liberty needs added to her to better represent 21st century America. The one thing they don't show you on the Pentagon tour is the secret blank room. Well, of course they don't show you the sex room. That's in the White House. Don't reply to a restaurant job listing that reads, must love blank. The worst thing a lifeguard could announce to nearby swimmers. What a first lady does all day. The best way to get out of a corn maze. Eat the corn, absolutely. Also, that's just a good way to get more corn in your body. Something that most Americans really need. The worst thing to say while being tortured. A rejected section of the King James Bible. The part where Jesus blank. Oh sure, it was rude. But I mean, give a guy a break. It was his last supper. A rejected name for a Crayola color. What a lazy cowboy names his horse. Coincidentally, horse is also what a lazy Quiplash player would type. A good name for a very cheap brand of whiskey. Why do owls not kill us? The scariest thing you could find in a cave. The title of the shortest book ever written. The sequel to the song I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. In your job, you don't need a bulletproof vest. You need a blank-proof vest. Please, you're telling me? I gotta host this game all day. Let's move on. The worst donut in the world is filled with blank, an ingredient you definitely shouldn't find in a bottle of water. Tip: take your large movie theater beverage cup home and use it for blank. What Victoria's Secret models probably do right after a fashion show. An event you would dominate at the Olympics. The 500-meter blank. A weird thing for a baseball umpire to lean down and say to a catcher, "I'm sorry, but if loving your catcher is wrong, I don't want to be right." A bad excuse for being late to your own wedding. Sorry, I was blank. The reason everyone loves Tom Hanks is blank. The worst thing to hear as an art class paints your nude form. The worst tattoo to have on your butt would consist of these 3 words. A political slogan if a bear was running for president. Make America blank again. Explain how babies are made in 3 words. The perfect man is tall, dark, and blank. The name of a really boring sex position is the reverse blank. Gee, that's funny. It's also a really boring answer. The dark secret of Frosty the Snowman is that he blank. Oh, Frosty didn't melt. He's right here. Wait, that's mashed potatoes with a carrot in it. What Burt Reynolds' mustache would say if it could talk. In the future, robots will do everything for us, except blank. A good sign your dog wears your clothes when you're not home. The hardest part about dating in 1892. The advice a couples therapist would give to Captain America and Bucky. A group that no tour bus driver ever wants to have assigned to their bus. Finding money in an old pair of pants is great, but what's even better is discovering blank. Hey, have you been reading my diary? Why is each snowflake different? A creature you should never find on a carousel. The title of a musical you're glad doesn't exist. The name of a horse you should never bet on. Come on, Lasty, come on! Why didn't I bet on Firsty? Never touch the blank. If the Liberty Bell were truly patriotic, it would make this sound. The weirdest song that could play during a father-daughter dance. A better name for belly buttons. What a good Christian yells right after he's been shot in the foot. A terrible thing to announce on your first day in jail. The worst reason to call 911. Loneliness is a bad reason to call 911, but a great reason to play more Quiplash. The nickname Hitler gave to his mustache, probably. Actually, I think Little Fuhrer was probably his nickname for something else. You know you have a shady landlord when blank. It's sweet when grandma knits you a scarf. It's really weird when she knits you blank. What a drunk traffic reporter would say. You know you're old when you're at a bar and the bartender asks you blank. You know you're staying at a dirty hotel when they offer free continental blank. A weird thing for a president to announce. I did not have blank with that woman. An odd thing to discover upon arriving in heaven. Tuesday nights are blank night. What the guy who used the first toilet said. Another name for puberty is blank time. You know your baby boy is growing up too fast when he starts to blank. A fun thing to do in a grocery store when no one is looking. You know your company is going out of business when you show up to work and notice blank. A great thing for a parent to say to scare their child's prom date. What did Adam and Eve really do to get thrown out of the Garden of Eden? The 3 things that make up old person smell. In your opinion, scientists should be working around the clock to clone blank. One of you is all I can handle. The hardest part of living forever. How the Monopoly guy really earned his wealth. I knew he had something shady in that top hat. A good joke to say while you're tied up in a basement. The worst sign-off line you could have on your email. After high school, kids get the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. After college, they should get, Oh, the Places You'll blank. You'll puke in the alley. You'll puke in the shower. You'll puke on Ms. Mulligan's prize-winning flowers. Ah, those were the days. The title of a sitcom starring an otter. A great way to get expelled from Hogwarts. Something unusual to see written on a bathroom stall. It would be weird if aliens arrived and the first thing they said was, "Take us to your blank." A terrible name for a morning talk show. What happens when you have your 10,000th poop? Wait, you don't really die after 10,000, right? I'm like already in the high 9,000s. I keep a little tally thing in the bathroom. What are the 3 greatest words in the English language? What are chicken nuggets really made out of? A family heirloom you probably shouldn't pass down to your children. The perfect odd couple pairing. Andy Dick and blank. Spell out the sound a fish hitting a person in the face makes. A really cool thing to be reincarnated as. The worst theme for a slot machine. A murder weapon that should be added to the next version of the game Clue. The only thing you can remember from inside the womb. What is Scrooge McDuck going to give Dewey in his will? The title of the ultimate dream job. A sign your Roomba may be sentient. The #1 reason people flunk out of ninja school. What Pandora would recommend after playing a One Direction song. What NASA doesn't tell us is that for years they've observed blank through a powerful telescope. Another use for carrots. That's not where food goes. A bad way to start your valedictorian speech would be, "Ladies and gentlemen, I blank." Hey, you know what they say? He who stated it matriculated it. Why the Tin Man isn't married. It's one thing to take his gold, but the best way to make a leprechaun mad is to blank. The gross thing nobody knows about the Easter Bunny. Frankenstein's middle school nickname. Harry Potter can do a really weird and obscure spell that allows him to blank. A bed bug review of your mattress. A pull string toy of this player would definitely say blank. If you pull your uncle's finger, he farts. If you push it, he blank. When you cough up blood, you should be concerned. When you cough up blank, you should be terrified. The name of an animated movie that stars a surfing cow. A weird catchphrase Jesus would say before performing a miracle. A perfectly good reason to walk around with a raven on your shoulder. What you say 3 times to summon Donald Trump. The only things that can survive nuclear war are cockroaches and blank. Surprising photos to find on Garfield's phone would be of blank. A weird thing to brag about at a high school reunion. What have I been up to? Oh, just a little thing called blank. A perplexing band would be Crosby, Stills, Nash Young, and blank. What not to say to a date while you're on a paddle boat. An odd headline to see on the cover of Cosmo. 17 tricks for blank. How did the ghosts in Pac-Man die? A new term for when you're drunk off mimosas. The worst person who could sing the James Bond theme. Oh man, if Taylor Swift did the theme, it'd be all about her breakup with Bond and how she's bouncing back better than ever. Gee, you know what? That actually sounds great. Love you, Taylor. A sign you never see, honk if you're blank. The sequel to Shakespeare in Love would be called Shakespeare in blank. The most embarrassing Google search this player has entered. The quickest way to get out of a conversation is to look at the clock and say blank. The 1960s Batman was so goofy, one episode saw Batman and Robin fighting blank. A cute thing a lawyer would say as he cuddles you. A weird end-of-the-date proposal. How would you like to come back to my place and blank? Your awesome new witness relocation program name. A weird thing to hear from your grandpa. I wish I'd spent more time blank. The worst part about having your human brain living in a robot body. If a job interviewer asks you, "What's your biggest weakness?" always say blank. A terrible thing to say as a cashier scans several pairs of your new underwear. What movie title best describes the state of your butt right now? Inside Out? You really should see a doctor, but finish the game first. You know it's love when you don't even hesitate when your lover asks you to blank. Something you never want to hear a flight attendant say. A reenactor at Colonial Williamsburg would get suspended if they said blank. What word should never be followed by an exclamation mark? The name of a conference where internet trolls gather. Yelling fire in a crowded movie theater is bad, but even worse is yelling blank. If this player ran for office, this would be their campaign song. A bouncy castle is cool, but a bouncy blank is just sad. If Michigan is shaped like a hand, Texas should be shaped like a blank. You know you have a messed up kid when they give you a crayon drawing of blank. You know, this crayon drawing of my death would be really useful if I could just figure out what was killing me. Is that a knife? A weird banana? My goodness, learn to draw, kid. The perfect thing to yell to make a Pee-wee basketball player miss a free throw. If he missed his shot, Luke Skywalker's backup plan to destroy the Death Star was to blank. What a moody teen would say to hurt their stepdad, Bigfoot. The worst place to put potato salad. Well then, if putting picnic food down your pants is so wrong, then I guess you don't want a slice of this delicious watermelon I've been keeping warm all day. More for me. A sign you don't want to see next to a hotel hot tub. If this playa had an underground club, the secret password would probably be blank. What memory is this player suppressing? The saddest thing to say with a voice full of helium. What Twinkies should be filled with? The name of a bra for dogs. A cheesy pickup line from a camel. Unlike an actual camel's hump, this joke holds no water. You know you're going crazy when you hear the Rice Krispies say blank. You're right, that would be crazy, because the only cereal that makes you want to kill someone is grape nuts. A good name for a movie starring a crime-fighting jockey and his horse. The worst thing to say in the back seat of a cop car. A line you wouldn't expect to see from a message in a bottle. A brand of pants for mermaids. The name of a support group for men who can't grow beards. If you want a really effective scarecrow, make sure it resembles blank. The worst time to hear a camera go off. Hey, the cameras in the bathroom are there for your safety. At least that's what the guy at the gas station told me. The worst cocktail that ends in teeny. The name of a very proper and discreet cable channel for adults. A great way to make a dolphin mad is to blank. The worst part about having a boyfriend who's secretly a highly advanced robot. The worst part about dating a magician. Well, sure, he may disappear now and then, but he more than makes up for it with all the coins he finds behind your ear. A bad thing to hear the person cutting your hair say what no one wants to hear immediately after having sex in a barn. A great way to spice up baseball is the rule 3 strikes and you're blank. How Papa Smurf plans to spend his retirement. I have no idea what you're smurfing about. You know the coffee shop barista is hitting on you when they ask, would you like room for blank? Okay, just a reminder, make sure to get clear consent before dipping your genitals into someone's beverage. Especially a hot beverage. The reason the aliens stopped abducting you. A terrible reply to the text, you up? A mystery that Nancy Drew couldn't solve. The case of the blank. The worst toy you could find in a box of cereal. The title of a cookbook written by a cowboy. A terrible name for a toupee company. Your fishing trip with your father was going great until he set down his rod, turned his head, and said blank. Thanks a lot, Pop. Next time let me know I'm adopted before I get up at 4 in the morning. A unique feature in a couch for billionaires. The name of a fast food restaurant where the workers don't wear pants. Yeah, I guess the food is okay at Bottoms Up, but the staff there is so cheeky. What makes hobos so sexy? The best part about a nude workplace. The best way to make a waiter at a snooty restaurant angry is to keep asking blank. A rejected, less scary title for the movie Jaws. Are you kidding me? Gums can be scary. You obviously haven't seen Jaws 8, The Wrath of Gingivitis. The title of a tell-all book by a former My Little Pony. The name of a holiday you quickly make up to get out of work. The worst thing to smell as you get into your car. First draft movie line, go ahead, make my blank. Go ahead, make my bed. And while you're at it, fluff up the duvet, punk. You know there's something sketchy about your accountant when she asks to see your blank. A line you'd see on the Wolfman's online dating profile. Hey, at least he's housebroken. Mostly. A terrible thing to say to the bouncer checking your fake ID. A bad way to make friends with your new next-door neighbor. The title of an action movie starring frogs. The least popular scented candle smells like blank. Nah, the poop candle couldn't be the least popular. I distinctly remember it coming in number 2. Forget hamster balls. Modern hamsters get around in hamster blank. Yep, and with all that hovering, they don't even get any exercise. This is the hamster segue all over again. The title of a TV drama about a farmer who becomes a cop. An odd thing to find in a cave painting. Hey, you know what? If time travel were real, I think my future self would have come back in time to stop me from hosting this game a second time. A good sign everyone in your dance class hates you. The worst excuse Clark Kent has given Lois Lane so he could go change into Superman. The worst thing you could try to donate to the Salvation Army. Nobody wants your sperm, even if it is vintage. Life hack, an ordinary melon baller can also be used for blank. A good sign there's an invisible man living in your apartment. The wrong thing to say to the kidnappers who have your husband. Wow, sounds like someone needs a little couples therapy. Although paying the ransom may actually be cheaper. The most disappointing thing to win on a game show, a lifetime supply of blank. Spam? Disappointing? I think not. You obviously haven't tried my spam souffle. When confronted by a mountain lion, stay calm, stand as tall as possible, and blank. You know what? That's actually a pretty good idea. Confuse him by throwing him off your scent. A fun trick to pull with your identical twin is to switch places during blank. Yeah, I guess I kind of pitched you a softball there, didn't I? You're welcome. A wise old saying your grandma taught you. Look before you blank. A rejected superhero vehicle, the Blankmobile. The Buttmobile, huh? Well, at least it runs on natural gas. An awkward thing to shout while bouncing on a trampoline with your friend. You know it's time to lose weight when your gut blocks your view of blank.